Welcome to PDP, Prime Development Podcast. Become the leader people will follow. Howdy doody. This is your host, Johnny Bravo, and I just wanted to make a quick, short podcast here on something unrelated to my How to Be a Superhero series. More so just regarding some stuff that I've noticed that I go through and some difficulties that I find that clients have a lot. And I find that out of every 10 clients or so that I have, there might be one or two that stick with it. They follow everything I lay out for them, from the meal plan to the supplements to the exercise, and they do great. But a lot of those people, what separates them from the rest is that everybody has a goal, but they've made theirs so specific. And I think that's why I've noticed for me personally, because everyone has times where they say they're going to do something or they have a goal for something, and then they find that they're not there, including myself. And the things that they do get to accomplish are generally things that they are extremely passionate about in their life, and so it's easy for them to do. So, like, for example, out of all of those different areas in my How to Be a Superhero series, with relationships and financial and nutrition and fitness, appearance, all those different areas, for me, the nutrition fitness part is really easy, but that's just because it's something I'm super interested in and passionate about and always have been since back as I can remember. So it's not something that I have to force myself to do. And even though I have goals in other areas, they aren't as habitual to me. There's something that I have to actively get myself to do. And I hate using the word push, because I don't believe that you should have to push yourself to a goal. I believe that you need to find whatever reason it is for you to make it such a strong motivator that it pulls you forward. You don't have to push yourself anymore. And so you just got to always go back to whatever those roots are of what it is that you want. And if you recognize what that is, then you'll be able to refocus and keep attacking that goal. So whatever that is for you, that you need that extra motivation, you have to go back to your root reason why and let that be your motivator to pull you forward. Because if you have a strong enough reason why, it's not going to be difficult. But anything that is out of the normal habits of somebody, it will take some effort. And the effort literally just has to be to go back to whatever that motivating thing is for you that is strong enough to pull you forward and your reason why. And so to my point about having, one or two out of every 10 clients that actually do everything that I lay out, it's because they have a clear, focused reason of why they want their particular goal, and it's a why that's deep on a level that's very heartfelt to them. So, for example, most of the people that give me answers on why they want a goal, it's generally something like, I want to be in shape, or because, I've always been overweight, or because I've always been a skinny kid, or because I want to feel better, or, because of some health issue that they're having. And while those are great, that's only the surface. You have to ask them, like that annoying kid in the car saying, are we there yet? You have to keep saying, why? Because you will uncover some deep things. And that ultimately, if you can get that emotional connection to why you actually want it, that is going to pull you forward. And the other thing that separates those 1 or 2 out of 10 people is that they've made their goal Not only do they know why, they've made their goal extremely specific. And that is super important, because if you have it very, very specific and you know exactly what your goal is, more than just, for an example, if I want to be a certain weight, well, okay, what weight do you want to be? And then they know how much they want to lose exactly. Or maybe it's, I want to look good. And so, okay, what type of body do you want to look like? And if they have a vision in their head, you can put a number to that. Okay, you have to be this % body fat to look like that. Then they have an exact number. Okay? And then if you figure out where your starting point is and what your end goal is, then you can figure out a timeline. And then from that timeline, then you know how long it's going to take. But then you have to set a date for when you want to achieve that goal, because that will keep you on track. Because otherwise, if you don't do any of that and your goal is just very generic, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to do anything. Zig Ziglar said it best when he said, if you have a target, if you can get to it. But how can you hit a target that you don't have? So find out whatever it is, make your goal very specific, and plan an end date for when you want to get there. And those 1 or 2 people out of 10 that I was saying, theirs is very specific. And I found, for me personally, it helped when the first time I got really, really lean and shredded and everything, it was because I was doing a bodybuilding competition. Well, that competition was on a very specific day, and I had to do everything in my power to follow nutrition and exercise and all that stuff so that I could get to that goal by that day, because it's not like I could procrastinate it, because then I wouldn't be able to look the way I needed to look on that day. So the people that make it to their goal, they end up having a very clear, specific goal and a specific time frame on when to get there. And that keeps them on track. And having a really deep emotional reason why is also going to help. So one thing that I found that really, really helps, and I guess I kind of went a little off track here, but the main premise of this podcast today was I was listening to a video talking about different steps, and everyone's got these different methods to avoid procrastination or whatever it might be. But for me personally, I have found that, for example, I mentioned earlier that for me, nutrition and fitness is just habit to me. That's really, really easy for me to do. So other areas of my life that I have goals in, I have to actually keep reminding myself of that reason why and bring myself back to it. And I do find that from time to time I procrastinate in those areas, and it's really difficult for me sometimes to get that ball rolling. But just like a snowball rolling down a hill, that keeps going, gets bigger and bigger, and then it turns into an avalanche. And that is the same way that you have to be about those other goals that are not exactly just habit and innate to you, that you have to put some effort in to go along that path. And so I have found in times like that, for me, the easiest thing for me to do actually is, say I have, a whole bunch of, I have some big goals, and then I have a bunch of little tasks and other things that I have to do through the day, things I have to get done that week, in all kinds of different areas. But what I do is I'll sit there and I write them down. I have them in my calendar, usually the night before I go to bed, so I have a plan in the morning. And when I get up, I look at that, and if I'm having, a tough time getting going on something, I go on that list, and I mark down all the little different tasks that I can do that day. But usually I'll just take the smallest one and I do that. And then the next smallest one and I do that, because what happens is you're picking the easiest ones. And a lot of experts out there say to do the really hard one first, and then that's out of the way and it gets easier. Well, the thing is, some people just procrastinate so much, and it's really tough to get the gumption to do that really big thing. And so if you reverse it and you do the smallest things, all of a sudden you do that little tiny thing and you feel good. You're like, oh, I got that done. That's cool. That's checked off the list. And there's something rewarding about checking those things off. So you do that and then the next one. And they're easy. So all of a sudden you just got 4, 5, 6 things done in a short matter of time. And I found for myself that when I do that, all of a sudden I get to a point where I'm like, I feel that momentum, and all of a sudden I'm running around like a madman just getting all kinds of stuff done, and I'm like, holy shit, I got a lot done today. And it feels good, and I go to bed that night and I rest easy because I got a lot done. And if you're in a moment where you're stuck and you need to go after something that you're trying to achieve, do that. Try picking something and work on it like a snowball. Just little by little by little, and it builds up and builds up. And soon you got all this momentum behind you, and it's just really easy to keep on track that way. So if there is stuff that is not just by nature habit to you, and you're trying to get going on that, and for all my clients out there that might be struggling to get the goal that they have, well, generally, if that has not been a habit in your life, it's going to take a little more effort. And so when you are sitting there and you have, because I provide all my clients with a meal plan and workout plan, supplements, all that, but sometimes it's just so overwhelming, and that's fine. So all you have to do is pick one little thing to do in there. So, for example, if you're having a hard time sticking to the diet, well, that's okay. Just back it up and go back to fundamentals, because otherwise you're going to be overwhelmed and you're going to stress out and you're going to feel like you're failing. But you don't have to fail. Just pick a small thing to do. For example, if you need to get on track, go through the steps that I outlined in my How to Be a Superhero book. Week 1 is just consuming 1 gallon of water a day. And do that. And I found it helps me too, just like checking off to-do lists. Make a little calendar. And every day that you hit 1 gallon of water, put a little big W inside there. And to stand as a win, because you won that day at that particular goal. And if you do that, you accumulate those wins, that momentum will start rolling, and you'll feel good. And so you don't have to feel like you're failing because it's difficult to follow the plan as a whole. Just start small steps like that. Or, for the fitness thing, just get out and move. Just if you have a step tracker or whatever, just go for a 20-minute walk. Because just doing that, you'll feel good afterwards that you went and accomplished something. And the more things that you add up, the more momentum you get, and it becomes easier and easier and easier to go farther and farther and farther. So that was just the topic that I wanted to cover today. So if you're out there, you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, feeling like you have a goal but you just can't seem to get to it, take it in small pieces at a time and do the small little things first, because you'll build up momentum.